Jacob Ben, want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union. Also want to remind you to join Hanson Scotty Thursday from noon to 3 at My Hearing Centers, 8940 South, 700 East. And one more thing, because Christian's been telling me to do this for a while now. Want to remind you about Taco Tuesday. Should we do that right now? All right, we'll do it later.
Like 11:30?
Stay tuned. We'll do it later, actually. We've got Taco Tuesday brought to you by Cafe Rio. We'll do that before the end of the show. Stay tuned for that. All right, it's time for the Big Pack Power Poll, which is not the Big Pack Power Poll anymore. I got to get used to that. The Big 12 Power Poll. Where we rank all the 16 teams in the Big 12 as opposed to all 42 teams.
We might have to bring them out, the Pac-12 back in now that Utah State's in it next year.
I don't think
we might have to bring them back.
Nope. All right.
If they only have 8 teams, it's not that much work. It's kind of nice. Still fewer teams than we had last year.
All right. Where are we starting today, Christian?
We have a new/old number 16, Houston.
2 of the 3 of us have Houston as the worst team in the conference. They got crushed by Cincinnati, 34-0. All their goodwill of almost beating Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago is out the window. And also, Oklahoma stinks. They're changing their quarterback. So,
yeah, all right.
No winless teams.
I still don't have them last. No, I have a different team last.
You ranked them 14, so you like them a little bit. But yeah, Houston's as bad as expected.
Next.
Number 15, Kansas.
By the way, Houston at home against Iowa State, so they're going to fall to 1-4 this weekend. Kansas, my Jayhawks.
They're terrible.
They are terrible.
Just terrible. Gone back to being Kansas.
Because I think we had West Virginia and Kansas as the 16th and 15th ranked teams in last week's poll, the 2 worst teams, and they lost to the 15th ranked team. So Kansas loses to West Virginia, 32-28.
I honestly never thought.
Disappointment.
I never thought West Virginia was that bad. I know we'll get to West Virginia a little later on in the poll, but Kansas is terrible. You can be a good football team at a basketball school once in a while, but building a good football program at a basketball school overall, not that possible.
The NIL money's not going to be there for the football team. It's always going to go to the basketball team.
Yeah, the support, everything.
And, yeah, you have a bad season like this, and any goodwill you had last year is totally gone. Because they have what they thought was a good quarterback this year who hasn't done anything.
When Utah got its Pac-12 money, what did it build first, a football facility or a basketball facility?
Football.
Yeah. At Kansas, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
All right, next.
Number 14, Baylor.
I had Baylor last.
You had Baylor at 16. We had them at 10 last week. I had them at 13. Christian also had them at 13. The hard part about Baylor is that they are 2-2, so they have a better record than both Houston and Kansas. But the bad part is, you lost basically on 2 Hail Marys. One of them got dropped, and then you allowed a Hail Mary on the next play.
And Colorado's not that good.
No, Colorado's not good. Baylor should have won that game.
Yeah.
Their win probability at the end of that game, like any Hail Mary, is 99.7. Then Colorado drops the Hail Mary at the 2-yard line on what would have won them the game, assuming the guy just falls backwards, and then they give it up on the next play, and then they can't score in overtime. It was a disaster. Baylor's a disaster.
Baylor's only wins are Tarleton State and Air Force, and Air Force is really bad this year. But I can't get over how bad they showed against Utah, and then I just don't believe in Colorado.
And they're going to get smoked by BYU this weekend. This might be their worst loss of the weekend. I think BYU is going to absolutely run them over.
They should.
Yeah,
I agree. Next.
Number 13, TCU.
So I told you I hate SMU. One of my least favorite teams I've watched this year. They're stupid. They make a lot of mistakes. SMU rolled TCU 66-42.
And they didn't put up all 66 points on offense. They had some turnovers and some stuff. But, yeah, I mean, that's not a good loss for TCU. Yeah, I agree.
TCU's not good. They're 2-2. Sonny Dykes can't coach. I don't think he's a good coach. I thought he had 1 year where he took over. Is it still Gary Patterson's guys?
It was his first year at TCU. Yeah.
And won with other people's guys in kind of a fluky year and has done nothing since. And didn't do anything when he was at Cal either. So they are on the road at Kansas this weekend. They probably beat Kansas, but Doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
Let me say this. I actually am a little biased because I like Sonny Dykes. Like, interviewed him a bunch of times at Pac-12 Media Day when he was with Cal, and I like the guy, so I'm a little bit biased there. I think this is an example, Ben, of like there are certain. Gary Patterson recruited a certain way because that's how he proved you could win at TCU. And you go from Gary Patterson to the complete opposite of Gary Patterson. I don't know. I think the air raid is a totally flawed system. And maybe you can't recruit the guys. I mean, like, if they were running this system, would they even have recruited Jerry Hughes? Does that make sense? Like, what made TCU really good under Gary Patterson? They hired a coach that was completely opposite.
They wanted to swing the pendulum the other way, which is weird because Gary Patterson was a good coach, and I get it.
Forever.
It had fallen apart a little bit late, but
he won a Rose Bowl.
Yeah, right. No, he was a great coach.
A great coach.
Yep.
And they really went away from what made the identity of the university. I mean, if anything, I think it's a lesson to, like, when Witt does step away at Utah.
Yep.
It'd be tempting, and I know Morgan's the coach in waiting. I'm just using an example. Like, Virginia Tech went way away from Frank Beamer when they replaced Frank Beamer and hired somebody totally different and forgot what made them successful in the first place. I think that's what's going on at TCU. Just my opinion.
I think you're exactly right.
All right, next.
Number 12, Colorado.
Colorado, not doing anything for me. I mean, Shedeur is good. Travis Hunter is good.
Yeah, they have talent.
But
they should have lost to Baylor at home.
But they're not good. They're not disciplined. People are bending over backwards right now giving Deion credit. I saw somebody like, I mean, Colorado was the worst team in the country, and what Deion has done is incredible. And it's like, well, they are better than they were, sure.
Well, they're about to lose by 40 to Central Florida.
But Mike McIntyre did the same thing in Colorado 10 years ago. I mean, I don't know.
No, they're going to get crushed this weekend on the road in Florida.
I don't think Deion's a good coach.
Then they've got a bye week, and they're going to get crushed by Kansas State. And then I think they're going to lose on the road to Arizona. And Cincinnati might be okay. I mean, they might lose their next 4 games in a row, and all this goodwill of beating a bad Baylor team at home is going to be out the window.
All right, next.
Number 11, West Virginia.
They beat Kansas 32-28. You said you liked them a little bit more than maybe the expectation.
I don't hate their losses. That's the thing. Penn State isn't a bad loss, even though they lost badly. And actually, at Pitt doesn't appear to be a dreadful loss. Does that make any sense? And I feel like at the bottom of the poll here, we're just weighing out the dregs. This conference isn't as good as we thought it was going to be, at least not now.
I agree with you.
And I didn't think it was going to be that great. So, I don't know. I still have some belief, I guess, that West Virginia is okay because they don't really have a embarrassing loss. Like Baylor's loss to Colorado, that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, TCU's lost to SMU by 20 points is bad. It was a bad loss.
I don't know if West Virginia has that, but then again, we're just splitting hairs with these teams that are none of them are probably any good.
No, the bottom of this conference is really bad.
Yeah.
These are all really bad teams. They're on a bye week this week, speaking of West Virginia.
Next.
Number 10, Texas Tech.
They're 3-1 all of a sudden. They
Yeah.
squeaked past Abilene Christian, and I held that against them early, but they are 3-1. They did beat previously unbeaten Arizona State. That's not bad. I'll give that to them. In fact, they should be way higher on this list. They should be above Arizona State, having just beat them head-to-head.
I did have them above Arizona State. But I never believed in Arizona State to begin with, honestly. So I had Arizona State at 11, and I have Texas Tech at 10.
I think you're right. I think Christian and I both got it wrong.
Next.
Number 9, Cincinnati.
Crushed Houston 34-0 at Texas Tech this weekend. That's an interesting game.
For the middle of the poll, sure. Give us
two
another
3-1
data
teams
point.
that aren't actually competing for the Big 12 title, but might end up finishing in the single digits versus the double digits in these rankings.
All right, next.
Number 8, Arizona State.
Yeah, they should have dropped further.
No, I still don't think they're very good.
Agreed with you. Their 3 wins weren't actually all that impressive, and they go on the road at Texas Tech, who hadn't been very good, and they lose. They're on a bye week, but they are still sitting at 3-1, which they'll take.
Yeah, I bet that this is, what were they last week?
11. No, they were 6 last week. Excuse me.
That will definitely be the high watermark for the Sun Devils.
Agreed.
I don't think they'll see 8 again. All right, next.
Number 7, and a unanimous number 7, Arizona.
I think this is the line where the teams start getting better. I know Arizona lost to Kansas State and didn't look good doing it. I still think Arizona is a pretty talented team in the upper part of the league.
I'm curious if their defense is legit at all.
It's not.
It doesn't seem like it. It seems like you can run the ball on them. I would worry about falling into the trap of just believing that you can run the ball against Arizona because Kansas State ran the ball. Kansas State's going to run the ball on everybody because they have really good running backs and the best running quarterback maybe in all of college football. I know he didn't look good against BYU. When you're playing from behind, it's hard to run the ball. But we'll see. We'll see if Mekhi Bernard can have a big weekend this weekend as Utah hosts Arizona.
Next.
Number 6, Kansas State.
I don't think any of us had them falling any further than 6. I don't think the loss to BYU, even though they got spanked, I don't think that's a bad loss. I think BYU is a pretty good team. I'm not, at least I didn't consider moving them below, say, Cincinnati, you know.
Agreed, and I still think they're going to win most of their games this year.
I do too.
I still think they're probably in the 9-win conversation by the end of the year. We're going to look back at the end of the season and say losing at BYU is not a bad loss by any means.
I that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I agree. It was tough to drop them too far. I thought, anyway. Next.
Number 5, Oklahoma State.
These were the two teams that we all had either at 5 or 6, and I guess the question is what's a worse loss, at BYU or at home against Utah with their backup quarterback? I think it's probably a worse loss for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, probably worse to lose at home, but BYU wasn't projected to be a great team, and Utah was, and I know projections don't mean anything,
Yeah.
but I'd take the quarterback situation out of it. That has nothing to do with it, in my opinion.
I do really worry about Gundy being so shaky on Bowman as the quarterback already.
He shouldn't be. That's the thing.
Bowman was at Big 12 Media Day
Yeah, he
as
should.
a representation.
That there might be something else going on, or some that Bowman's. I mean, maybe it's who was that Braves pitcher, Mark Wohlers, who just forgot how to pitch, like
Yeah.
it was a total mental thing, and you never know what people are dealing with. But I was surprised he was so shaky on that guy, considering how he's played. So,
And also, the issue at Oklahoma State right now is that they can't run the ball
yeah,
at all. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
that's
on
weird.
Bowman.
I don't either. All right, next.
Number 4, Central Florida.
Coming off a bye, they are 3-0. One of, 4 unbeaten teams remaining in the Pac-12. The Big 12. They do not have a single win that matters at all.
No, and that's why I debated between BYU and Central Florida, and I know we're going to get to BYU, but in my ranking, I had BYU at 3 and Central Florida at 4 because BYU by far has a better win.
I also have that. In fact, I would say BYU probably has 2 better wins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. All right, next.
Number 3, BYU.
There's my reasoning. I had BYU at 3. That's the biggest. That's that or Oklahoma State, the biggest wins in conference this year?
Iowa State winning at Iowa. But if you're talking about in conference.
In league,
yeah.
certainly.
Going back to Central Florida quickly, sorry. They beat New Hampshire, they beat Sam Houston, they beat TCU. Well, we've since realized TCU's not very good. And those other two teams aren't football
I think
teams.
BYU should be ahead of them. Christian was the only one that didn't make that
you and I
same
both,
calculation.
like BYU better. And I agree. I think BYU would beat Central Florida right now on a neutral field.
Next.
Number 2, Iowa State.
If the Cyclones had figured out how to score and they beat Arkansas State 52-7, man, look out. They might be a way better team than we were thinking.
Again, they beat Iowa to start the year, which is a big rivalry game. That was tough.
On the road.
On the road. And yeah, they're scoring points. That's a big deal for them. They scored 20 against Iowa. They scored only 21 against North Dakota. But if you can come out and you can put up 52 points against Arkansas State, they're going to kill Houston this weekend.
I would think so. So Iowa
And then
State
they play Baylor, and then they play West Virginia. Like, we're not going to know what Iowa State is until October 19th when they play Central Florida.
and they play Utah at the beginning of November in Rice-Eccles, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yep.
That's going to be a huge game.
Huge game. Yeah, you're probably talking about 2 top 20 teams at the very least.
All right, next.
Unanimous number 1, Utah.
That's a big win. And they beat Oklahoma State worse than the 22-19 final, obviously.
How close were you to putting BYU over Iowa State?
Not.
I debated that. BYU, man, that win over Kansas State.
That's
is-
a great win. Yeah.
It's the best in-conference win.
But I think we were underestimating, well, certainly BYU, but I kind of get the feeling we were really underestimating Iowa State. I think maybe I eat these words, but I think they might be a lot better than any of us were thinking about going in.
And maybe Kansas State stinks. There's a chance that at the end they're just really soft and can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
If you can't
Well,
throw
they
the
should lean
ball-
into the triple option thing, which, I don't know. They tried to against BYU, but BYU was really good at it,
Yeah.
defending it.
Yep. No, I didn't think BYU was going to have the speed to keep up with them, and they found a way to do it. But yeah, not to get lost on BYU. Utah's 4-0, and they've done basically everything you would expect outside of having Cam Rising healthy. I still don't think there's a quarterback debate. If Cam could play this weekend, I'd play him at Arizona or at home against Arizona.
I really hated the reasoning last year, even though Florida State didn't belong in the playoff or whatever. I really hated the reasoning that they punished him and left him out because of their quarterback. Is this a team game or not? You know what I mean? So I'm not going to move Utah up or down based on Cam Rising's availability. That's not my problem. That's not the polls' problem. You got to go beat Oklahoma State, and they did, to their credit.
And I think actually Utah coming out of all of this adversity that they've faced early, which is playing without Karini Reed, playing without Cam Rising, having to figure out a running back and doing that, probably going to make them better as the season goes on.
We'll see. All right. Recap the top 10 for us, Christian.
Top of the conference, Utah. Number 2, Iowa State. Number 3, BYU. Number 4, Central Florida. Number 5, Oklahoma State. Number 6, Kansas State. Number 7, Arizona. Number 8, Arizona State. Number 9, Cincinnati. And number 10, Texas Tech.
There you go. Good times. You want to do it now, Christian? All right. It is Tuesday. That means you can win some lunch on a Taco Tuesday. Right now, caller number 12, 801-575-ZONE. We're going to hook you up with a $20 Cafe Rio gift card. Gift card will be mailed to the winner after completion of the winner form. So, 12th caller, 801-575-ZONE. We're hooking you up with our good friends at Cafe Rio. More next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, want to remind you, join Hanson Scotty coming up on Thursday from noon to 3 at My Hearing Centers, 8941 South, 700 East. Also want to remind you to join Hanson Scotty on Wednesday for the Cougar Preview Show from 1 to 3, brought to you by Beehive Meals, proud partner of BYU Athletics. What, Lloyd? That's not funny, Lloyd. That's not funny at all. That's not what I need today, Lloyd. Not from you.
Not from you.
Not from you. By the way, Aaron Rodgers still goes on Armpit Show. Is he still making $1 million a hit on Armpit
Probably
Show?
at least, right?
What was he making? Well, it wasn't
$1 million
like
a year.
to do weekly
4
hits.
appearances.
Oh, was it only 4?
Well, 4 appearances a month. Yeah, whatever it was. A weekly appearance.
You know what I don't get? Like, then you and I have complained about this before, and we'll move on to talking about more productive things. But like, get him a camera set up.
Yeah.
You know, you're paying $1 million. Like, you're investing in this segment. Just get him a camera that is eye level. That makes
so he's not doing it on Microsoft Teams.
So he's not doing it on his stupid Apple. Maybe if he had an Android,
Maybe if he was Team Samsung.
it would be a better picture. But I'm sure he doesn't want to be judged as an Android person. I'm sure he would.
Are you
Heaven
kidding me?
forbid.
Aaron Rodgers is absolutely a Samsung person. 100% a Samsung guy.
Now you're bagging on Samsung. First it's Android. Now you're going with the subsect.
It's whatever. He's not an iPhone guy. I promise you that. We know Aaron Rodgers is not an iPhone guy, for sure. Guaranteed. Christian's
I
in
actually
agreement.
picture Aaron Rodgers as a not a phone guy, which is really how I would love to live my life.
Aaron Rodgers has a pigeon,
Yeah, right.
a pet pigeon that he, puts
Gets
the
notes
little, the little note.
I'm sure he still has a dang wall phone. I wish I had to be home to get phone calls.
No, he lives in the little troll house that you go into that's pitch black.
How do you have such violent swings on who you are in love with and who you aren't? Like, the Bills are the worst team in the league, and then they're the best team in the league the next day. Last year, you were all in love with Aaron Rodgers after hating his guts with a passion, and now you're back to hating his guts.
I don't hate Aaron Rodgers.
How does it go so one way or the other?
I'm fickle.
Apparently. And
I'll
you're
go on
easily
record.
swayed by HBO.
I love Aaron Rodgers.
I lack morals, and I'm easily swayed by HBO. Yeah, absolutely. I got no problem with
you're
that.
still in on the
Got
fingernails.
no spine. I'm losing it on Caleb a little bit. I'm not a huge believer on Caleb Williams.
Still on Love Eberflus or whatever his name is.
I can afford to be a bandwagon fan.
What does that mean? Afford?
It means I have enough security in myself to pick teams up when they're good and drop them when they're bad, and then kick them while they're down. I feel fine doing that.
Well, you have a right to do that, Ben. For now, this is America.
Right, I feel good about it. So I don't have any problem kicking Aaron Rodgers when he's down and then being excited when I watch him on HBO.
But I will feel free to criticize.
You can criticize me. I can withstand it.
All right, I told you I kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed, so I'm letting a lot of things bother me today. Can I tell you one other thing? And this has relevance to the show and here locally that is bothering me today. The same people, and I'm painting with broad strokes on purpose. The same people for the last 3 years who've been telling me that Cam Rising is an all-conference quarterback that should be considered for the Heisman Trophy are now the exact same people who are saying, well, should Isaac Wilson start? Should Isaac Wilson be the guy? Even if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, should they go with Isaac Wilson? Was he the all-conference Heisman guy or not? Because if he was the all-conference Heisman guy, you would never consider starting a true freshman. And Isaac Wilson's done fine. But it's not like he's lit the world on fire with 400-yard games or whatever.
No.
So this is not a Brett Elliott, Alex Smith thing, where neither one of them were proven. They picked Brett. He got hurt. Alex came in and absolutely proved himself to be the best quarterback in the conference from snap number one. This is a guy who the same people have been telling me for years is actually better than Caleb Williams. He's actually better than Fingernails Ben. Did you know that? Who won? Huh? Who won? That same person is now going, well, I don't know if they should start Cam, even if he's healthy. What? Am I taking crazy pills?
Cam Rising is 100% the best quarterback at Utah right now.
Right.
And
I agree.
I think Cam Rising's the best quarterback at Utah by an enormous margin. He is so much better than Isaac Wilson right now. I am very intrigued by the potential Isaac Wilson has shown. I think he can do more with his legs. He just doesn't know when to do it. I love his arm talent. I like that he has not been so rattled that he can't perform in these situations when he's down on the road at Logan. I actually thought he played better. When there were some must-make plays at Oklahoma State, he did it. He's not the reason Utah beat Oklahoma State at all.
No.
That was all on Mekhi Bernard and the defense, which is Kyle Whittingham's formula for winning games when he doesn't have a great quarterback.
That's what he does.
That's what he does. He's really good at it. He's been doing it for 20 years.
Maybe
He's been doing it really well.
Probably better at it than anyone in the country. 100%.
I agree. So I'm intrigued by Isaac Wilson. I do believe this is the best quarterback room Utah has had in a long time because of Isaac Wilson's upside.
Now,
But man, the second Cam Rising can play, I'm playing him.
Now, can I tell you the other thing that's bugging me? And this may seem like I'm on kind of both sides of the issue, but it's a different thing. I spent years telling people that Zach Wilson was good in the face of, no, I think he stinks. I don't think he's very good. Had like a perfect bowl game, comes in the very next year, beats USC before he gets hurt.
Right.
And then for years, people are saying, no, I don't think he's any good.
It was the COVID year.
I don't
Wilson
think he's
now.
any good. I'm just trying to talk people. No, I'm seriously, look at this guy play. Everybody doubted that guy, to your point, till the day he left BYU.
Mm-hmm.
Where he went, he just beat up on nobody, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I thought he got an unfair shake because for some reason, everybody doubted that guy forever. Now his brother plays for 2 seconds, and people are telling me that he's the next dang Johnny Football.
Yeah.
Why? What's the difference?
The rivalry.
So everybody automatically thinks the BYU guy stinks, but everybody automatically thinks the Utah guy is good,
Well-
even though that history proves the exact opposite? The exact opposite. But yet everybody's like, oh my gosh, Isaac Wilson may be going into the league tomorrow. He's that good. Zach Wilson beats USC with a crappy team. And the next Monday, I'm talking about people are like, I don't think he's very good. I still don't think he's very good. What? What? Isaac Wilson beats Utah State once. And all of a sudden it's like, my Lanta, have you seen Isaac Wilson play?
I'm an Isaac Wilson believer. I would be stunned if he's ever as good as Zach Wilson was at BYU.
Now, okay, you could say that now. At the time, did you think Zach Wilson stunk, or did you think he was going to be good?
No, I liked Zach Wilson quite a bit. He was electric. Did anybody know what was going on during the COVID year? No. Do we have any idea how accurate those performances were? No. Do I think Zach Wilson's an NFL quarterback? I think that remains to be seen. But he is on his second team and did make a cut. So there are much smarter people than me that said, yeah, there's something here and he's worth keeping around. Yes, I've always been a Zach Wilson believer. To be fair, when everyone came in the next year and said Jaron Hall might be better, I said, are you nuts? Watch the film. Watch the throws Zach Wilson's make. It does not look like what Jaren Hall's doing. It was a totally different animal. Zach Wilson was a much better player than Jaren Hall. Much better player. So I was a Zach Wilson believer in that sense, and I like Jaren Hall too. But those are two totally different levels of college quarterbacks that we saw.
I just don't understand the difference.
Well, it's Utah fans not wanting to believe that BYU had something good,
But
and wanting to believe now that.
But I'm not just I am not now, nor was I then, just talking to Utah fans.
You thought there were BYU fans who didn't believe in Zach
There were BYU
Wilson?
fans that didn't believe. There were Utah fans. But even if you just want to talk about Utah fans, isn't that hilarious? That totally exposes how much bias can sway you. That you're telling me this guy stinks forever, even though he's beating a good USC team with a subpar team of his own. You're telling me that guy stinks. But his brother beats Utah State, and he's the greatest thing ever. Shouldn't that be eye-opening in some way, shape, or form?
You would hope so, but no. Of course not. That's not how it works. And I'm not blaming Utah fans because BYU fans do the same thing. There are BYU fans who don't think Cam Rising's any good. That's
Except
crazy.
for Cam Rising isn't as good as Zach Wilson.
No, he's not. Of course not.
And he's not as good as Jaren Hall was, probably. That's more arguable. I mean, and again, we're not talking about winning. We're talking about the ability to stand back and sling it and throw the football and be a quarterback. I'm not talking like Cam Rising's X factor where he's just going to go win the game is by far his best attribute, and he's amazing at it. And the leadership, the toughness, all of it is what makes him a great player. But just stand back and sling it?
I think we are forgetting how good Cam Rising was because we have seen him for a total of one game over the last year and a half, I guess now. Year, full season last year and the first 4 games of this year. We've seen him for 4 full quarters. So I think we're forgetting how good Cam Rising actually was. And it wasn't just that he was a game manager and didn't turn the ball over. Again, go back and watch his footage against USC. And yes, he had Dalton Kincaid. Well, he's got Brant Keithy now. Yeah, he had a big target he could throw to. He could make those passes. He really made some incredible throws against USC. He made great reads. He knew when to use his legs. And it wasn't just gutsy guy who was putting his body on the line. He actually played really well at the quarterback position. So I still fully believe in Cam Rising. I think that guy is still the player who's up there. Does he need to do less of that? I think he needs to do less of that. I think he does need to lean into being a little bit more of a game manager. I still think Cam Rising's very good. I still think Cam Rising's the best quarterback in the state. I think he's better than Jake Retzloff still.
Oh, I would agree with that. How many 300-yard-plus games do you think Cam Rising has had?
7?
7? Christian?
I'm going to say like 3 or 4.
3. He's had 2 300-yard games and 1 400-yard game.
Okay. Yeah, he's not out there chucking it around.
That's not his game.
It's not his game. It's not what Utah has asked of him.
No. But it doesn't mean that he's not good. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. The Wilson thing is interesting, and it's obvious because one went to BYU and one went to Utah. But it struck me today. I don't understand that.
I think people are sick of the Cam Rising is he going to play or not going to play narrative, and they're taking it out on Cam. And I don't think it's Cam Rising's fault.
I'm totally sick of that. It was his fault last year. I don't know if it's his fault this year.
You think it was Cam's fault last year?
Yeah, I think he led everybody. Now, they shouldn't have believed it, but I think he led everybody to believe that he would play at some point last year.
Okay.
That's what that whole doctor controversy was over.
I get it.
Because Witt kept the door open, and then Cam had to go outside of they had his doctor do public interviews to say that he wasn't ready to go.
So that's the thing. I don't know if that is on Cam. That might have been on Utah. Now, maybe Utah was totally bamboozled by Cam and had no idea. Maybe they really didn't have any idea, and he told them he was going to be healthy, and then he wasn't, and they were surprised. And maybe it's all a scam to get NIL money. I don't believe that personally. I think it goes back to what you have talked about a lot with Gordy Chiesa and Carlos Boozer. He's hurt.
Oh, I think he was hurt. I agree. I
He's
said that.
hurt.
I said that from the beginning of the year when we're all trying to spy on him playing stupid pickleball at the media days.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, he just wrecked his knee like 2 days ago.
He's hurt.
But yet they sold it going into the year until what, November, that he could play at any day? And they did practice him like he could play. And I don't think he was ever, I don't know what his intentions were. I have no idea. But I don't think he was going to play ever. And that was one of the more bizarre situations that played out last year. If you kind of look behind the scenes of what one side was saying and what the other side was saying, it was completely different.
Yeah.
To where one side felt, Cam Rising felt like to protect his own reputation, he had to put his doctor out front to tell everybody. Like, that's not normal. That doesn't happen.
Right.
So
I think people are sick of the storyline.
I
I'm
think
sick
they
of
are
it. You're
too.
sick of it, and I think they're taking it out on
but
Cam.
if he's ready to play, there's at no point would they consider benching. I mean, to bring this segment full circle, like, that's not a thing. I'm just surprised that the same people that tell me that Cam Rising is the greatest quarterback in the history of the world are the same people saying, well, maybe they should go with Isaac Wilson.
Yeah. Because Isaac Wilson, to his credit, has done more than I expect him to do as a freshman and still has only been an okay quarterback. He's still only been okay at best. I actually don't really hammer him for the 2 interceptions at Oklahoma State. I didn't mind the first pass that got intercepted on the wheel route to Dijon Stanley. That was a really good play by Oklahoma State's defense. They came out of nowhere to get that interception. I thought that was tough. Now, he had a couple of other balls that he threw that probably could have been picked had Utah's receivers not made great plays and gone back to get it. So he's been fine. He's had some ups. He's had some downs. He's been good enough to beat teams. He was as good as Alan Bowman, which is good. That's a 7-year senior on a top 15 team. Now, no one thinks Bowman's going to be a great football player. He's not a great football player. It's about where Isaac Wilson is right now. The nice thing is he's doing it when he's 19 years old and he's not 26. So we give him 4 years, I think he could be really good. I think he has that potential. But if you're trying to win this year, you've got to go with Cam. And I think they will.
All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the show. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, Christian. What's up, man? Just real quick, Ben. Love my Android. Love living on the west side. Represent, baby.
Yeah, take that, Ben.
Oh, don't pretend.
Team Android,
you were
bro.
born with a silver spoon in your mouth. What are you talking about? You're an East Sider. You have an East Side tattoo.
That's not true. Our friend Hugh Shasta Trailer says y'all have a blood pressure cuff in the studio. I'm concerned for Jake.
Well,
it's all right.
You were going off on the dichotomy between how fans viewed Cam Rising going into the season versus 4 weeks later how can't get him out of town fast enough.
Cut the guy.
I think that's a small but somewhat vocal crowd of fans locally in the state. I think most people are still very much on the Cam Rising bandwagon, and appreciate using the call-in feature on the KSL Sports app.
Always good.
I can't believe it worked, Robin.
Shout out to Robin.
I can't believe we could hear it so clearly using your Android, but you must have gotten one of the good ones. Here's what's really funny about Cam, which generally when you have a really promising backup quarterback, which I think Utah does now right now in Isaac Wilson, you can be a little bit more, you can be less conservative with your starter. And you can let him kind of go out there and move the ball a little bit, which Utah had to be so careful because the backups historically have been so bad behind Cam Rising. That's why last year I think was so frustrating for Utah fans. You're going to get an even more conservative version of Cam when he comes back. Because A, he knows he can't get hurt again. And B, they can hand the ball to Mekhi Bernard a bunch of times now and feel really confident. And they didn't know they could do that to start the year.
Man, I like 25 carries for that guy. That was a good number. If he's going to produce like that.
If he's going to give you 130 yards every week and eat up 25 possessions.
Feed the beast.
And then as they kept saying over and over and over on the broadcast, he's a great fourth quarter running back. Well, that's what good running backs do. They get better in the fourth quarter. But yeah, he has broken big runs in the second half of every game, bouncing off people, spinning out of tackles, juking people. He has way more to his game than he has ever showed at Utah beforehand. He's gotten better as a running back. Yeah, that makes Cam's life a lot easier.
Well, and he's always been a good blocker, which is something we probably don't talk about enough.
But he's not catching the ball out of the backfield like he used to.
No,
They're
he's
not running
He's-
that stuff at all.
No, he's their guy.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
All right, Hanson, Scotty G are coming up next. Jake and Ben will talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Christian.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.